I ask you to look at diction in the poem that you heard spoken by D. Revolution. It's an example of spoken word poetry, and we'll spend some time talking about what that is. But what I want to call your attention to today is that in a poem that claims to be about diction, that is the title after all, we see some interesting things happening with diction. I want you to notice the mixing of dictions throughout this poem. First, we see that there is a mix of elevated diction and low diction. Just a couple of examples of this. At one time, he uses the word obtuse in the poem. Not a word that we typically use in everyday speech. At another point, he talks about personifying his mission. Again, that idea of personification is an elevated diction that comes actually straight from the language of poetry. On the other hand, there's plenty of examples of low diction as well. He says, I don't give a damn. Brother's still dying on my block. Not the kind of phrases that you typically hear in elevated speech. So we've got that kind of mixing going on. Shirabolowski talks about the importance of contexts for words. I will point out a couple of different contexts that I pick up on in this. There is political language. He talks about people who have had hard knocks from the cops. He also talks about Big Brother watching. So it's political. Not only is it political, but it presents the establishment as something that is a little bit dangerous, something perhaps to be feared and even opposed. And then he adds on top of that religious language. God, please let my voice be an instrument. Personify my mission to speak for the have-nots. Let me breathe life into those whose souls are missing, and at the end, should I say, pardon my convictions. So in addition to mixing the elevated and the low diction, we have a mixing of the political and the religious languages. The big question is, what does this mean? Why does it matter? And what I would suggest to you is that what he is doing in this poem is using this mixed diction to show that poetry provides a message of hope, specifically to the have-nots, as he calls them. And it does that in large part through this presentation of the establishment, the cops and Big Brother, as being opposed to the have-nots. And then he uses the religious language to show that his message is precisely for those people. You probably came up with different ideas, and we'll talk about those in class. It's not to say that your ideas are wrong and mine are right. This is just what I'm hearing in the poem, and I'm sure that you've got really interesting things to say too. So I look forward to hearing those.